Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and this is your host, Business Ghost, here with a podcast review of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. We just got out of it, and this is a review with me and my friend Scott here, and we're going to be discussing our thoughts on the film and what we thought about it as a whole, part of the trilogy, or as a movie by itself. So, this is my friend Scott. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Scott. I'm friends with Kyle. I've been friends with him for quite a while. And I would consider myself a pretty good big Star Wars fan. So I've been keeping up with the info with the Rise of Skywalker. And I'm excited that I'm getting this opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Oh, it is a cool thing for you to be here. Um, So yeah, just to give it out there, this will be a spoiler review. So if you haven't watched the film yet and you want to come here to see our opinion, we'll give our ranking right now, just so you know. But after we give our ranking, it's just spoilers from here and out from here on out. So I think on a scale of 1 to 10, with a 1 being terrible and the 10 being amazing and masterpiece kind of thing, I'd probably say the movie we just watched is probably a 6 out of 10 for me. I think it was an above average film, and it didn't really do much for me as a fan of the new trilogy that they had going on, or a Star Wars fan. Felt like a big fan film, if I can say one sentence about it.
And I would have to disagree with Kyle, but I think a good 5 would be where it's at. I think an average moviegoer would probably enjoy this film. It has great CGI in it, really. Wouldn't you say?
Special effects are really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's Star Wars always. But definitely the story is where it's kind of drops a little bit.
yeah. That's where I mentioned where it's a fan film, because the story in that they have in the movie was just kind of jarring, and I don't know. For me, at least in these kind of films, I feel like if I'm like thinking of a way better plot to do, then I kind of feel the story isn't very good in the film. Because the whole entire time I was watching it, I was like, man, like they could have done so much more with these characters. I think especially with the plot between Rey and Kylo. I think in The Last Jedi they kind of set it up a little bit for what was gonna happen. But this movie kind of just fucking yeets The Last Jedi out of existence, and it just like, don't ignore that film. And it kind of just feels like a direct sequel to The Force Awakens, because they bring back like the Knights of Ren, and like there's like a big showdown at the end too, where like it seems like, oh
Yeah.
man, like wow, like this is cool, like they're actually gonna fight, and it's just like, what, we don't even, like, who are these people, like they just came out of nowhere. They didn't really do very much. They captured Wookiee once, and then, or they captured Chewbacca towards like the beginning of the film, and then it was just like, oh, okay, but like I don't know, it was just weird.
Yeah, the pacing was very off. Like it throws you in right away with I don't want to get into too much spoilers, but it kind of is a little bit too fast paced. Like
Oh
one
no,
minute,
we're full into spoilers. So
oh, we're full on it.
yeah, you can fall
All
into those
right.
spoilers.
So like at the beginning, it starts off with like, oh, Kylo is just killing a bunch of people, and immediately already showing off that he finds Palpatine. Like very beginning of the film. I'm pretty surprised by that. And then Palpatine pretty much foreshadowing from the very get go that, yep, Rey is gonna be, my granddaughter.
Pretty much, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you said the script was leaked like a year ago, and I
Yeah.
mean, you really should have expected at this point, because like, after they killed Snoke in The Last Jedi, there was really no other big villain that they could bring back other than the Emperor. Although I feel like they easily could have made a film about Kylo Ren and Rey, having that dynamic be the main center of the film. But this is Disney, and they need to meet their quota of having a supervillain in their Star Wars film. So they were like, no, we can't have that. We can't have interesting character development. We have to have a big bad guy be in charge of everything, and have Kylo Ren redeem himself, which to me was kind of a cop out a little bit for his character, and it felt really panhandling, especially towards the end when when Rey and Kylo Ren kiss.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I was just kind of like, okay, I guess that makes sense. I mean, they kind of set up a little bit in The Last Jedi, where there was like, it felt like there was sexual tension, at least in my eyes when I was watching the film, but it still felt very weird just to watch.
I felt like it was way out of place. It seems like, because in my opinion, when I see like Rey, I feel like they're trying to stray away from the average norm of what a female lead character role should do, and they just ended up making her into a trope at the very end by kissing Ben, and I felt like that didn't really set in right. And plus, the whole point of being a Jedi is that you don't fall in love, and and it didn't really make any sense. And plus, then Ben dies, and then she never sees him again, like as a ghost. Like because at the end, they reenact the whole Luke Skywalker seeing the 2 moons on Tatooine. They did, or the 2 suns that on Tatooine. And like it shows off like somebody asking her like, "Hey, what's your name?" And then she was like Rey, and then they were asking what's Rey who, and she looked over on her side and she saw the ghosts of Leia and Luke Skywalker, and they were just both nodding at her, and she was like, "I'm a Skywalker." And I felt like that was not really a good idea that they should have done. I think it would have been cooler for her to admit, like, hey, I'm a Palpatine, but I'm okay with that because that doesn't define who I am. That's just a name.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, that's an evil like bad guy, but I'm okay with it. Like, I can change that. I can redeem myself. That, again, the whole thing was about redemption for Ben. So what's the redemption for Rey? I don't know. It's like she finally got to get the answers that she's been looking for the past 3 films. Who is she? And then she ends up not even accepting who she is and deciding to go, fuck it, I'm going to be a Skywalker.
I think the thing I didn't like about it was like The Last Jedi. I liked the direction they had where it was just like, you're no one. You're just your family was junkers or something like that. Or whatever Kylo said to Rey. And I like that idea where it's like anyone could do it. I think that's the whole message of The Last Jedi. Was the fact that, like, I mean, because the ending shot of The Last Jedi had a kid who like grabbed like a broom with like using the Force, and so I like that whole message I had in The Last Jedi. But in this film, like they just try to like totally revert that, and it just felt like damage control for The Last Jedi for half the film. Like they totally scrap what was that character Rose, the Asian girl from The Last Jedi. Like she's not like Finn and her don't interact in a way where it's like, oh, like nothing kind of happens with them, and then they have to bring back like other characters from like The Force Awakens, like the girl from the Tankina, or the orange,
the
alien
orange
lady,
alien old lady that's been around for like 700 years or some shit.
Yeah, like I was just like, man, some of these people like don't really need to be here, or they need to be like have a stronger input in the film, but they're not because J.J. Abrams, took control of this film, obviously, and it just feels like damage control from The Last Jedi because they were trying to appease so many fans, and that's kind of why I felt like a fan film, just because a lot of it was just like, Rey is, related to the Palpatine, and that explains all of her magical force power. And it's like, do we really need to do that? Like, I don't know. For me, at least, it was just kind of like lazy writing to me, at least.
Yeah, I would have to agree with this. I think that the idea that would have been a lot better if they just had Rey, you're nobody, your parents are nobodies, and you have to accept that. Like, in The Force Awakens, they were trying to even go through that where they were trying to push her, hey, don't go back to your planet because, like, they're not going to come for you. You've been waiting for this long. They ain't going to come for you. And I think that should have been, like, her to finally say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a Jedi. I'm going to go ahead and try and... Like, I wish Luke Skywalker could have been more... And also, like, Han Solo could have been more of, like, a father figure, I guess. But I can understand Han Solo dying and it's supposed to be like that. But that bondage was, like, really short in the film. So there was no enough time for me to say, like, oh, yeah, that was, like, a father figure to her.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the bigger issues I had with the film was that it felt like a fucking roller coaster the whole entire time. There was like no letting up. It was just like bam, bam, bam. Like I don't think I've ever seen a Star Wars film in recent memory that like it just jumped from like planet to places in space and yada yada yada. Like there was just no room to breathe. I felt like in the film at all. Yeah. And like they've introduced new characters and like I think the weirdest interaction with the characters when they go to that like I don't even know how to describe that planet. But it was the one with the...
It's like a Kojima. They call it Kojima or whatever. I don't know. But it was like, it shows Poe's like backstory. And it's just like showing off like, I don't know. I didn't see there was a point in that. Because it's the last film. And you're going to go ahead and finally talk about Poe's backstory. It was just not needed. And it was just killing time.
Pretty much. I mean, because when Poe met the lady with the helmet on... Like, there was obviously some past grievances they had. But, like, immediately, like, when they first meet, she's, like, extremely hostile towards Poe and the rest of them. She points a fucking gun at them, and she's like, nah, I'm going to turn you into the Empire for money or something like that. And then, like, Rey knocks down all of her goons. And then they both get, like, in a stalemate where, like, Rey has a lightsaber on her face, and she has a gun on her face. And then she's like, oh, I like you. Never mind. And she just completely like does a 180 on his character. Like, and we just met the girl, so it doesn't really make like a lot of like what the characters do just don't make any sense. And it just seems like they just do it just so they can move the plot along.
Yeah, it's kind of really is a roller coaster, and it's like, why would you introduce new characters at this point in time when it's just like it's not really needed? Like the whole thing. So one of the things that they were doing new with is like Poe can hotwire shit. He can do all this like really like roguish stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that Finn was like, "How do you know this? How do you know this?" And it's like, I don't think that was really needed to be thrown in. I guess they just wanted to show off evil C3PO.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was so weird.
So like, if you guys seen any like trailers, like you've seen like C3PO will have like red eyes. The reason why they did that was just so then it's like, oh yeah, now he can speak in Sith language, and that was really stupid. I think that was a dumb idea. They should have just had C3PO just tells them, hey, I know the location of it, instead of wasting all this time. It felt like they didn't know what they were doing with this film. And like how Kyle was saying, massive damage control. They were just trying to fix what was going on. It felt like the characters weren't themselves either. Like, I felt like Poe wasn't himself in this film. He felt really off to me. I don't know. Did you feel that way about Poe? They kind of did not like a 180, but it's like a slight different thing with him. I don't know.
Maybe, I mean, he learned a lesson in The Last Jedi, obviously, with not being hot-headed and to be like more level-headed.
But he still was actually a hothead.
Yeah, he still kind of did stuff where it's just like, yeah, I mean, did he really learn a lot? I don't know. It was kind of weird. And yeah, like introducing new characters to the third film is. It can be okay sometimes in certain respects where it's like, oh, okay, well, like that makes sense to me. But like in this film, it didn't make any sense because they introduced like 3 or like 4. Like they introduced a lot of characters. Like they introduced the new general of the Empire. Yeah. They introduced the former stormtrooper lady. And like, are we supposed to care about her? Like we just met her like not like for like maybe 10 minutes, and it's like okay, I guess. And then we met the lady likes Poe. And just meeting all these characters and having all this stuff in the film just bloated it, and it kind of put all the other characters in the backseat that weren't Rey and Kylo Ren. Like Finn, I feel like Finn just got like both of the films, he had the same exact arc in The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. And this, he didn't really have anything, and he kind of just felt like he was just back there, just just for, I don't know, just to have him there, obviously.
Like for plot, like to continue the plot, like he did a lot of like, they made him into a hero. Like a lot of times, like he was doing some heroic things, but it was like his character wasn't really going really anywhere at all.
I think that's the thing I don't like about this film. It's a lot of missed opportunity and just like, I don't know, not very good direction within the. I don't know. I want to blame it more on the writing because like the script to me was really bad, but not like in a where it's like, oh, it's abysmal script. It just felt like it just felt like a fan script, and it didn't really feel like it was trying to appease just fans only, and it wasn't trying to be anything better than what I would like a film to be. They didn't really have an identity to me personally.
Actually, I would really like to focus on Finn right now.
Okay.
Because we were just talking about it, but it's like because for some reason he had a question to ask like Rey throughout the whole film. Like, Rey, I have to tell you something, but I can't tell you because Poe is around. And it's
they didn't explain that.
And they never explained what was going on with that. I don't know what was going on with that. And then the chemistry didn't work in this film either. Like they were together, but not together at the same time. It was like kind of like very off. Being in the third film, they should be able to work together, but they're not. It's like Poe hates Rey and Rey hates Poe because Poe is too hot-headed, and Poe is like, oh, I do my way, you have to do it that way.
Yeah.
And it's just like by the third film, they need to be able to work together. It's too late for them to be like, oh, okay, let's try. And they never actually solved that problem. In the end, they just all hugged together. And it was like, oh. And Rey did her own thing by, fighting Palpatine with Ben. Like, she had more chemistry with Ben than the actual, like, heroes.
Yeah, the 3 ensemble cast.
Yeah, and then Finn was... And that's why I'm getting back to Finn. Is like, Finn was like, oh, my friends. He's like, this is why I live. And it's just like... Man, you got some really bad friends.
Yeah.
Except for Poe. Poe and him have a good chemistry. and Ray and Finn did have good chemistry in the first film, but ever since the second film, it's been lost.
Yeah, there's a lot of like focus on friendship in this film, and it's like a C-3PO even said like, "Oh, you guys are my friends," and it's like what scenes were you in the other Star Wars films? I don't remember you being in like The Force Awakens and Last Jedi very much, where it's like you actually got to be friends with these people, and I don't know, just very weird. And the thing with Finn was also kind of weird was, they didn't really talk about the relationship with him and Rose at all. Like they had like a little interaction with that, and then he also seemed like he liked the other girl that they just met, the former stormtrooper, the black lady. I don't know her name. And then not also mentioning that he was like wanting to tell Rey whatever he wanted to say. So it's like, did he like her too? And like I don't know. Is Finn just a horn dog or something? Does he want all three of these women? I don't know.
I think like they never brought up the black girl's name at all. They only said her stormtrooper name. They never even got her name. So they didn't even have a name for this character.
And it's weird because she's on the poster too for the film. Like I remember seeing her like as character concept art too, and I was just like, oh okay, that's cool. She made a brand new character. And I was like, where the fuck is she? Because like, I've seen her on the poster. I know she's in this film. And then she's like brought in like the last 45 minutes of it. And it's just like, oh, okay. I guess.
Yeah, it was just like, why is she even here? I mean, it's great. I mean, yeah, you're bringing in a lot more diversity in, I guess, race is in this movie. I don't know.
I guess. I really don't know.
I don't know. But for the most part, it's an average movie, in my opinion. If you're a Star Wars fan, honestly, I don't think you'll like this film too much.
I don't know, because, like, personally, I actually enjoyed The Last Jedi. I didn't think it was, like, a hot mess like most people thought it was. I think it was bloated and kind of in a bad way. Yeah, it kind of was. I mean, it's, like, the longest Star Wars film, but there's a lot of, like, missteps with the film. And obviously, like, Mark Hamill and all the other casts, even just recently, I think the character, or the actor who plays Finn, and Daisy Ridley all voiced their concern over like The Last Jedi when they were filming it. They said they wish they didn't like the direction of the director.
Actually, what's it? God, I always remember his name. But yeah, the person that plays as Finn, he absolutely did speak out harshly about this film. Like he was like, God, this was really bad.
Oh, this is like The Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, The Rise of Skywalker. And it was just like, oh man, because he said like he was pissed off because he was like, they didn't do anything with his character at all. He was just,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
so he was just like, and then Daisy Ridley got herself into trouble because it was like, I know I'm getting into politics with this one, but it was like she was getting interviewed and they were like, oh, how do you feel about Trump? And then, or they didn't even bring up about Trump, and she's like, fuck Trump, right? And then,
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
And then they're asking her about her white privilege, and she's like, what privilege? I don't have privilege. And it's just like funny. But now that it's like she caused like a huge divide, and yeah.
This film is just a hot mess.
I mean, hot mess.
It's a hot mess. It felt like they were just like, fuck, we don't know what to do. Get J.J. Abrams back. Maybe you can fix it. And it's like, I don't want to blame the direction because the film was beautiful. The CGI and the character effects are all really good.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like was like the weird Luke and Leia sword fight they had. That shit looked straight out of Battlefront 2. It looked really bad. But
oh yeah, like you could totally tell that they did do a lot of with Carrie Fisher. Like, you know, you can totally tell at certain scenes. Like
yeah, certain scenes it looks like they picked it out of like maybe deleted scenes from like The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens and they implemented it. But then other scenes are like that's CGI. Like that's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's kind of weird. Mm-hmm. But I guess that's the way Hollywood works now. I mean, they brought back that one guy, Grandma Tarfkin, or whatever the fuck his name was, from Rogue One.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they even CGI'd Luke Skywalker's face to make him like the younger.
Yeah, but that was the only time I was like, this CGI looks super dumb. Like this shit looks out of a video game.
Like, did they really need to do a flashback on that?
They didn't. I mean, they could have just He was explaining how they were like, you know, like practicing with each other. They could have just had the mask on and just did that.
Or not even do that at all. Just say, this was Leia's lightsaber. Trained her, and there you go. It doesn't require like to show off like a fight scene, and that's what I mean. Like they feel like they were like forced, like, oh, we have to have like action. There's no dialogue, no calm down, just full on action constantly. Something has to be going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, J.J. Abrams like excels in like action with his films. Yeah, he can always like elevate it in a way where it's like exciting the whole way.
But like The Force Awakens, they had their downtime. Like
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like that film had a downtime, but this one just I don't know why. It just they felt like the need to just keep hurrying up with the script, and I feel like maybe it was just because they knew that maybe it was bad, so they're just like if we just keep constantly going to new locations and having action, people will like forget about the the
bad
story.
Script.
Yeah, because like the minute I read like the opening crawl, I was like, okay, what? Like he's alive, and they don't really explain how he lives. Really, they explain cloning, so it's like was he a clone or? But then he's also in that fucking weird contraption thing, so it's like I'm led to believe that he survived the Death Star death, but I really don't know. It's a lot of the shit. The movie just gives you more questions than answers. So if you're going into this film thinking it's gonna answer everything you really wanted to know, it's not. It's actually gonna give you more fucking questions, which is kind of annoying. Knowing that this will be like the last of like the Skywalker story, because the saga, because like I think Kathleen Kennedy said we're done with that and we're gonna do other directions with the films, which it's cool to me, but at the same time it's very disappointing, and I feel hurt even now more so because I've had two fucking properties of television and movies that fucked me over, Game of Thrones and now this, and it's just very sad to see.
Well, I guess I want to also talk about, if you don't mind, like the overall trilogy, or how do you think how would Disney like go through Star Wars from now on? I think
that they're probably just gonna keep doing the Star Wars story segments. Maybe.
Will they still do you think they're gonna keep the Jedi thing going?
I mean, obviously, yeah, they're gonna do that.
Are you sure? Because like Rey is the last Jedi and there's no Sith, so it's just like.
I don't know. I feel like they can pull something out of their ass.
Yeah, I mean, they could.
There was other Jedis.
They could pull their like something out of their ass, but I don't know. With the path that they were going with the Mandalorian, I mean, the Mandalorian is so good.
Yeah.
And I would love even more stories, not just about Jedi, but like those kind of stories. Like, it's a big galaxy, so and it's not called like Star Wars is like about Jedis and all that, and the Force is like a thing. I can understand that, but it's not all about whacking each other with lightsabers.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the only problem with that is I think it's like the main appeal to the series, and I feel like if you take that out, it'd be kind of hard to resonate more with like mainstream audiences. But I think it's something they could possibly do. I know like that canceled Star Wars 1313 game I was talking to you about, how it was like set as in the underbelly of Coruscant or Coruscant, and I forgot I think they were just bounty hunters and they're looking for people, but like stuff like that where it's I don't know, they could do anything with this series, but I don't know if Disney's really gonna do anything different, or they're just gonna keep having Jedi storylines with it. It's kind of just up to them at this point, and I have no idea what direction Disney's gonna go with Star Wars. But the way they handled the Skywalker saga was a little clumsy. I really enjoyed the Force Awakens, and I actually thought that was a very good starting point for what a potential good trilogy could be.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi came out, and while I do like the film, I understand that it didn't really set anything for the sequel. I mean, it did, but it also kind of like because J.J. Abrams wrote the all three of the films. Like he had like a whole story template set out, and then Rian Johnson was like yeet that script, and then he wrote his own thing. So. I don't know. Just they can go anywhere with this really at this point.
Yeah, at this point. I think that's about it, right? Anything else that you can remember?
Compared to other Star Wars films, if I had to rank it right now, I mean, I don't know. The worst ones to me are obviously Episode 1 and 2. I don't really like those films.
Yeah.
I would probably say maybe it's a little bit better than 3. I think for me it'd probably go 1, 2, 3, and then this film, and then I guess The Last Jedi, then The Force Awakens, and then The Return of the Jedi, and then 4 and 5. Because 5 is obviously like the best one, I think.
Yeah, personally. 5 is easily a 10. Easily a 10.
Oh yeah, it's a perfect film.
It's a perfect film.
This film is definitely better than the prequels. I've seen like stuff online where people say like this is worse than the prequels kind of like thing. Nothing could be worse than that. But it's definitely not a very good film, and it doesn't live up to the hype that I think us fans really wanted. And even on its own merit, as it's a movie, as we're judging it as a movie, it's just very sloppy. I think the editing is probably the worst part about the films, because there's just no time to breathe. I think that was the biggest detriment to the film. Was I wished we had more time to develop these new characters they're introducing, and convey more emotions. But I feel like they just didn't want to do that. That way you wouldn't really think about the script or anything like that. Just,
Yeah, the emotions, like, when it was like, when they dropped the bomb of, oh, you're Palpatine's granddaughter. And, like, literally in the whole film, like, whole, like, theater, like, barely anybody said anything. Or they said, like, oh, I knew it, know? And that was it. But, I mean,
I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, nothing really excited me in the film. Like, everything was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's a thing, I guess.
Yeah. The comedy in it is mediocre at best. It's a hit or miss at times.
It's kind of weird because like the film should be a little bit more of like a dire situation since there's not very many of them left, and they're trying to stop like this fleet that's gonna like every single ship has like planet destroyers attached to them, and it's just like, shouldn't this film be a lot more darker? But then they have like weird comedic things in it as well.
Oh yeah, they had some awkward moments with Rey and like at the very beginning, it was like Rey and like Poe were talking and they were bickering with each other. Yeah. It sounded like it was like not even scripted, and they did it like, hey, just say whatever,
Yeah.
And because it didn't like do anything.
No, you know what's weird too is that the ensemble cast of the original trilogy with Luke, Han Solo, and Leia, like, they all felt like they were really good friends. You could definitely tell, like, we as an audience, we know how much shit they went through because they were there to help each other out throughout all the films. But this film, I mean, even at the third film, they don't really feel like friends still because they're all bickering at each other the whole fucking time. And, like, Rey is still kind of an asshole to Finn. And they just don't feel like friends how I want them to feel, I guess, because just...
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't really help too that, like, the Last Jedi and even the film before that, like, they weren't really together a lot. So it's kind of weird to think that, like, oh, yeah, no, they're just really good friends because, you're telling me. And it's just like, no, I don't really feel it because you guys weren't really showing me throughout the whole entire film.
Yeah, like, you definitely in, like, the second film, like, you could totally tell, and I mean, in Empire Strikes Back, sorry, that Han, Leia, and Luke were definitely close. And when Han was about to leave from Hoth, like, you felt it, like, they were all, like, very sad, like, oh, Han, you should stay, right?
Yeah.
But then, like... in this one, when Rey was like, I'm gonna do it alone, and it's like, and Rey always wants to do things alone. It's so frustrating, and it's like they always have to hammer it on her head of like, oh no, we're going all together, and it's just like,
yeah. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like, I remember when Poe and Finn got mad at Rey. It's like, why weren't you there to help us at the beginning of the film? And it's like, what could she have done? You guys were on a fucking like spaceship, and you guys are going through fucking space. Like, what she. I guess, but like,
I mean, she's a good pilot.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah,
it's just, I don't know. Overall, yeah, this film was very poopy.
Like, if I had to say, it's like Force Awakens is easily the better one in this trilogy, and I would say this film, the Rise of the Skywalker, and I think Last Jedi is like really bad. It's a huge mess. It's boring. It's long, and it's just a bunch of random shit that happens. But I did like how they were trying to go with Rey as a nobody, and that Rey needs to just accept
there's
that.
A lot of things I like in The Last Jedi that I wish they picked up in this film, but this film just really feels like a sequel to The Force Awakens more so than anything, because it just feels like they just ignore everything in The Last Jedi because they probably don't want to piss off fans more so than ever. But at the same time, they kind of lose their identity as a film, and it doesn't really feel like anything. Like once the end of the film happened, I didn't really feel much. It was kind of just like, oh, like that was it. That was really the trilogy we got. Like, okay.
It felt empty.
It felt very empty. It was just like
a cash grab almost, or a thing that they just felt like, okay, all Star Wars movies need to be in a trilogy, so I guess we have to force ourselves to make 3 movies.
Yeah.
It honestly, they shouldn't. This trilogy shouldn't have been 3 movies. I think they're just doing that just because it's like, oh, it's like a tradition kind of thing for...
Yeah, because Kathleen Kennedy even said that, like, from now on, the films are going to be however long they need to be kind of thing, because they don't want to just limit to a 3-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's just... I mean, because Disney, I mean, they're actually good at, like, having multiple movies set up one after another, like with the Marvel series. So I was hoping maybe they would follow up with this with Star Wars, but... it just seems like they're very directionless with how they handle this property, which is very weird because it's a multi-billion-dollar property.
Well,
but
like with Marvel, it works because it's a comic book and it's superheroes, so comedy works with it because it's already silly as it is. It's you got tidy people wearing tidy whities, on their outside.
Well, I feel like because it has more like good direction. Because like in the Last Jedi, they kind of just gave full control to Rian Johnson, and you kind of did whatever, and you did whatever you wanted with the film.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was kind of a detriment. They probably should have had more of like a foothold. Like no, like follow this script, and that way everything kind of has a cohesive narrative to it. This really just feels like someone like gave J.J. Abrams like here's a hot mess, try to fix it, and he was like okay, I'll try to fix it as much as I can, and this is what we got and the outcome kind of thing.
Yeah, I can already tell like they're already having plans for another like.
Oh yeah, I mean
easily
they make billions of dollars like on these films. Of course they're gonna keep making them. So,
but yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah,
bad movie.
Yeah, we just saw the film like less than an hour ago, so these are just our fresh takes on it. I probably won't be watching it anytime soon in the theater because I'd rather go watch like 1917 or some other movie. I might watch this later, or I might watch the whole trilogy in one go and see how it holds up. But honestly, from what I watched from this and what I remember from The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I'll probably just not want. I probably just won't care, and I probably won't watch them anytime soon. The original trilogy is obviously still the better of the three trilogies that they have now.
Yeah.
A lot of missed opportunity and just a big blunder of a mess. That's all I can really say about this film. The trilogy itself is missed opportunity, though. I'd probably say.
Well, thanks for having me on
Yeah,
here.
that was good. So with that, I hope you ladies and gentlemen have a good night and take care.